Hi everyone, I'm here with Michael Melachrinidis, who's the Deputy CEO of Product Management and Digital Transformation Service at Exus, who are in the collections software business. Michael, thanks very much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me, Chris.
So first off, I suppose I want to talk a bit about, we can't ignore what's happened over the last sort of 12, 18 months with the pandemic. I mean, what's been your kind of experience of that, particularly with clients, and sort of like, how have you sort of seen them sort of react to it?
It's been quite a year in 2020 and 2021. There were two different things happening in these 2 years. In 2020, it was obvious that priorities shifted abruptly, violently, maybe. All the projects were put on hold. Collection managers had to be, singularly focused on what's going on, how is it going to pan out with NPLs. And then you had all the side effects from physical presence, so no face-to-face interactions, branches closed, and so on and so forth. And talking to customers, there's a theme that it seems like we have the rise. We saw the rise of the circumstantial defaulter versus the recurring defaulter. It seems like the nature of the business changed. More focused on rescheduling rather than collections, because you had a lot of people who were abruptly put out of their patterns and they had to fall into arrears. At the same time, obviously, call centers had to deal with a lot of new inbound activity. People had to work from home. And it also seemed that people at the call centers, the agents now having to work from home, had to cope with increased stress, feeling a lot more isolated. And at the same time, the business had to shift from outbound into inbound. We had some customers needing to take measures very quickly. For example, we had a large customer in Southeast Asia, and within a single weekend, they switched more than 800 agents from working in on-premise to working at home with whatever that entailed. And thankfully, they were able to do that on their own. In the span of a weekend. That was the kind of stuff they had to do.
Yeah, and what's your sense around how much of a shock that was for clients? I mean, clients or maybe other people that you talk to in the industry, in terms of like, how ready do you think we were to be able to do that, and how much of a shock was it to be able to turn that off and sort of change patterns of working, as an example, or change collection strategies as well?
I think, especially in 2020, no one was that well prepared. I think it was a wake-up call in many respects. And the reason I say this is because at the back of 2020, now coming into 2021, whereas in the first year of the pandemic, everything was kind of at a standstill, then some things started moving, then more. But now, going into 2021, the recurring theme that I see from my existing customers as well as from new prospects is a need to clearly ramp up their collection systems, their collection infrastructure, with a very, very, very high focus on flexibility. And being able to, on the system side, to be able to flexibly cope with whatever comes, from the pandemic, and at the same time, on a more strategic business level, to actually gauge what's coming in the next 3 years and actually, change their strategies as well. So 2020 was an abrupt wake-up call. 2021, better and more coping. I think now to the effect that with the recurring waves of COVID, in 2021, we have seen a new kind of normal where projects are coming back, but are coming back a lot more vigorously. So there is a sense of urgency. There is a clear focus on okay, we need to be more flexible. Old solutions do not necessarily fit, and it is probably the pandemic that brought this about, especially with our new prospects. There is a shift towards, okay, how can we automate things better? And this has brought about, especially in Europe, a very interesting increase of interest in self-service and more digital communication. So there is a shift there. And things are actually going on a lot more rapidly. Having said that, as we saw in 2020 from an Exus perspective now, we had to completely stop on-site delivery of projects. So that was a very challenging thing. So we had to adapt very quickly. And this hasn't changed. We are still getting zero to very lukewarm reception of a proposal to actually go on site and deliver projects to the customers. So we're working with that, and we're making some good progress with that.
And just talking about on-site delivery, particularly from a software business, essentially. I mean, how much of an impact has that had on speed of delivery versus not? I mean, obviously we find ways around working around it, but has it impacted it? And do you think this is now the new way of working, and it's going to be much more like this going forward? I mean, has it fundamentally changed?
I think it has. In the first months, I would say that it was a very challenging situation, simply because even if we wanted, we had customers that said, guys, everything is on hold, that's it. Okay. We respect that. We see how we can go about that. And then we had other customers that said, okay, let's go on. We need to finish this. But obviously, there was an issue with availability of the customer experts themselves. They had a lot of other things on their plates. We had time differences. We had availability on both sides. That included a bit of flexibility because, okay, whereas before you had to be there for 4 or 5 days and that's it, now you could be more flexible, but that introduced delays. I think now, about 12 months in the making of that, I think we, as a company, we miss the face-to-face interaction because that indeed will invariably will resolve problems in an easier way, in a faster way. However, if we look at our KPIs, I think we are almost back to delivering projects remotely with minor impact.
I mean, it seems almost like, whereas before you would have a really sort of intense sort of week or 2 weeks sort of getting things done, and it was like super intense and everyone's dedicated for that. It's tiring, and I suppose there's some inbuilt inefficiencies within that, but it's sort of intense. And so you've got that 2 weeks and then it's done, it's delivered. And we sort of cut it the other way now. So now you can do multiple projects probably at the same time, but it's spread out over 6 weeks. So you probably get the same product at the same number that going through, but it's just spread out over multiple times, and then you get the inefficiencies around having multiple projects going on at the same time. I would
think. Yes, that's definitely the case. In some areas, it's also in some respects, it's a cultural thing as well. For example, okay, face to face versus a Zoom call. There are some customers that do not want to use their cameras, and that's okay, understandable. But obviously, then you miss interaction, or the audio might not be so good, or they may not all be at the same table at the same time, or you may be distracted, and so on and so forth. So you get this, and you have to live with this. and you have to account for this in your planning. So I think we've got it now. I think we're okay. But I would still say that a face-to-face interaction, maybe not necessarily as intense as 2 weeks, straight on site and that's it, would still help.
Yeah. I mean, do you how do you sort of see it evolving though? Do you think we're sort of going to be largely remote and then a little bit on site? So from a relationship point of view, or I mean, how do you think we'll sort of like land? Because it feels like it was sort of like we've been going remote, we went very remote, and then we're sort of like trending back a little bit from being permanently sort of face to face. I mean, where do you think it landed? Do you think we're going to have new infrastructure that's going to set up as a result of that?
Yes, absolutely. Talking to our delivery guys and looking at how projects go, I think remote delivery is here to stay for sure. From the Exus perspective, there is no way we're going to lose face-to-face interaction with our customers. So what I see coming in is the majority of the project being delivered remotely, but some key interactions happening, like a statement of work, kickoff meetings, and so on, taking place face to face. Actually, happily enough, only last week we've had 2 projects running currently, from one from Europe, one from Southeast Asia, and both clients said, okay guys, do you think we might be able to do some face-to-face workshops? Yeah. So I think, okay, it's a small sample, it's too early to tell, but I think that the customers are also kind of feeling that way too.
Yeah. I mean, I think from a customer point of view, it certainly opens up new opportunities and sort of talking with more people. I mean, it's getting responsiveness as well, so people don't have to get on a plane to do things, which I think definitely some advantages.
Yes.
When digital seems to be sort of like definitely sort of coming through from a pandemic point of view, like this year in particular, it seems like everyone's really busy. I mean, what are some of the flavors that you're kind of seeing, I suppose, with your clients? And I suppose I'm particularly interested in, obviously we've got the European perspective, but then you obviously do work, all around the world, and in Asia, and etc. What are you seeing in other markets?
Yeah. So I think the most marked change that I have seen. Okay, so a bit of background with respect to digital. In the previous years, like 2019 or maybe early 2020, just before the pandemic set in, I think it was a rising trend, but with no urgency. So it was interest. There was interest around, tangible interest, not just academic, but that was it. Now, come the pandemic, and it became more of an urgent issue to see what's going to happen. And at the back of this, whereas before in our interactions with customers, and that was the same both in Europe and in Southeast Asia, not so in the Middle East, but let's say predominantly these 2 areas, Europe and Southeast Asia, we had the switch from let's see how this pans out to we are going to make this work. So especially in Europe, there's a determination that I see that especially for the early stages of delinquency, and with a focus on self-service, the customers seem to be determined to make it work. They're deploying. As a matter of fact, we deployed a self-service portal only this week with a customer in Europe, and we're deploying the next one. We're going live in January with the next one, and that happened as a matter of a few months, within a few months. Now in Asia, I see the same. They're a bit more, not reluctant, they're a bit more hesitant. But other than that, there is a clear sign that, okay, guys, show us the way. So we're leveraging the best practices and the learnings from our customers in Europe to actually help our customers in Southeast Asia. In the Middle East, I think they are still one step before that. They are still a bit more relaxed about this. I don't see this urgency coming from that area of the world just yet.
So it sounds like there's a bit of sort of like build it and they will come sort of thinking going on, which is like, well, we're going to build the best. And do you think it's possible for markets maybe they've got less of an evolved digital infrastructure historically that they can leapfrog it? I mean, is there a sense for like, well, we're going to try and leapfrog and get to, you know, a point of arrival best in class rather than this sort of incremental that some of the markets have been going on?
I think that's a matter of technologically, that's okay. I mean, that's not a problem. Certainly, I don't see any problem with that in how we service our customers. But in terms of acceptance by the debtors and cultural issues, if there if there are any cultural issues, I'm not sure about that. So I would actually wait and see. Let me give you an example. If you go, for example, to Indonesia, talking about cultural differences, in Indonesia, I've seen examples where it's okay. Actually, both the institution and the debtor are okay with the bank, let's say, proactively calling you up and saying, hey, your payment is due, before you even go into arrears at all, okay? And if they don't call you, maybe you go into arrears, and that's okay, both sides. So it's both sides, it's okay. But at the same time, they're very, very careful about not to create any bad customer experience. So they are very careful not to be, seen in a social media by a debtor saying they did this and they did that and so on and so forth. So and they're testing the waters. How much acceptance is we're going to have as to, previously it was the old school collections, and now it's a totally digital collection. Technically, yes, easy. Culturally, question mark.
And I suppose that's where flexibility comes in. And you talked a bit about flexibility. Is like, I mean, even now things might change, right? So it's not a static system even today. So what is happening yesterday is being replaced by what's happening today, but that might be replaced by something else tomorrow. And I suppose it's having the flexibility to be able to change and adapt quickly as well. I mean,
I'll give an example. Okay, so Europe is I think more advanced. I'll give an example. So we when it comes to digital, we have rollouts now where the initial and only focus of the customer was, okay, how can I just get, run a campaign, invite the debtor into our portal, simple as that, and then just get a promise to pay from them. Okay, as simple as it possibly gets. And then very quickly we moved on to, okay, that's not enough. I would like to be able to do some information capture, some form filling, like an income and expenditure form. Okay, then beyond that, very quickly we moved on to, hang on, I would like to be able to service inbound requests as well. So it's not like, I do an outbound campaign and then debtors come in, but I would like to be able to have that portal there for anyone who, instead of having to call my call center, go onto the portal and, say, I've got trouble, I need help, and so on and so forth. So now, which is, I think, it's more down the road, I'm not so clear about that, but there is already talk about introducing more complex facilities through self-service, like restructuring. So, okay, this is early to tell yet, but we're already discussing about how to support things like restructuring and even refinance through the portal. There's a question mark as to the uptake of that from the debtors, but with respect to the early stages, I think a combination of that flexibility along with the determination of the customer to make it work will actually make it work.
Yeah, and you think finding the driver for that change and the driver to digital is almost like there's been customer need, I suppose. There's also taking cost out, and then there's also gathering additional data to then build better relationships or find better solutions. I mean, it's almost like thinking those are almost like the three areas. I mean, is there which do you think is sort of dominant in terms of the conversations that's driving it today?
Yes, I think that there are two dominant factors. The first one is cost cutting, so reduction of cost. I mean, we are talking about several orders of magnitude of increased interactions that you can have if you can make the digital channel work. So that's very clear. But what I also see is, and this is, I guess, an experiment, a very specific need to improve customer experience, to be less intrusive, but still be able to make your targets for collection. And from the interactions I have with the customers and how they are planning to deploy systems like what we call CSS, collection self-service in Exus talk, is a move from how can I collect to how can I help my debtor. Now, so this is a mind shift which is important, I think, and if the digital channel is a key enabler of that, if that is a catalyst, a positive catalyst, then we have a winner that's going to drive cost for the institutions considerably down as well.
I suppose one of the things that comes up often with digital is you design a digital experience, and it's great if you're digitally savvy or if you're plugged in and you're used to using that. But then a lot of banks, and particularly a lot of the large financial institutions, might have people who aren't actually, say, like that. And so it's like, how do you build in terms of process design the flexibility to be able to handle all cases, or is it, or are people very much thinking, well, we're going to have a digital process, and we're going to put everyone down there, or is there a sense around you've got to build it for everyone? I mean, what have you got? How do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean that's a problem that we think at Exus that we have solved. I'm pretty positive that we address very nicely, because, for example, with the collection self-service portal that we've deployed, we've developed, we built in the flexibility to change very, very easily and very, very quickly, and to try new things like almost instantly. And we do that in a way that, first of all, there is no coding, and it can be done by anybody who's just got an understanding of the business process, but it's not doesn't need to be technically savvy. Now, of course, that then means, and we couple that actually with the obvious champion and challenger strategies that we deploy at every single step, so we can go as low down as deploying a champion and a challenger dialogue to the debtor and see which one, like A/B testing, does best. So we still leave it to, obviously, to our customers to decide the best strategy that works for their customers, but we enable them to be able to very quickly, very rapidly try out new things and then quickly converge to whatever seems to be working best.
So it's the measurement and be able to do the comparison piece. I mean, from your point of view, and really understanding how do you measure a process as well as actually just design it and as well.
So we've got a lot of metrics that help them understand, and of course, okay, maybe for collection self-service that's too early, but we have seen a very good traction in our customers, even between different areas of the world, in how to best share best practices, and they all seem to be very eager to see how things are done at different areas or different companies and so on and so forth. So obviously we put a lot of that into the product, but we've also instigated our what we call the EFS community, where we have regular roundtables, and we bring together our customers from all sorts of all areas of where we are active, and we facilitate the exchange of ideas and best practices. So I guess that digital and how to best deploy that is going to be a very hot topic in our community pretty soon.
I suppose with KPIs and digital, I mean, one of the things that comes across is a lot of data, right? And it's almost like we're gathering lots of data around how to understand customers better. What do you think the role is of that? And there was before even the pandemic started, there was a lot of discussion around machine learning and really like statistical data techniques to understand things. I mean, what do you think the role is of data, and sort of what's the trajectory we're on, do you think, particularly from a collection sort of software point of view?
Yes. So if I can take the risk to make a prediction, I think pretty soon we will come to a point where old collection, the existing, let's say, collection strategies become more and more obsolete to be replaced by data-driven strategies. That's my prediction. Now, of course, there is a big bet on how we are going to leverage and to what extent machine learning and artificial intelligence are going to facilitate collections. In that direction, there is a lot of activity everywhere, of course, and there are companies left, right, and center springing up and doing new stuff. We are doing new stuff. For example, with our customers, we are discussing all sorts of flavors of different things that you can do with ML and AI, from simpler ones like best time to call, best channel to call, then going into more intricate ones like prediction of a promise to pay, prediction of a lazy payer, ones you don't need to do anything about, and then you save money on that, or prediction of strategic defaulters, and so on, and then going all the way to what I consider the holy grail of collections, next best action, where you actually you don't need the strategy; it's decided on the fly by data. Now, we are currently piloting some of these with our customers. In terms of preliminary results, I'm very excited because I see very good numbers coming up. However, I like to be a bit more cautious and let's wait and see where this leads. So, in a nutshell, a lot of activity, some very promising results, but it's never over until the fat lady sings. I mean, we need to see that over a relatively longer period of time, in the real context of collection, and see how much of help we get.
So I'd replay that as almost cautious, realistic optimism around it doing it, but because you've got to have practical steps rather than sort of like this is the future. It's like practical steps and sort of taking it step by step, and it's looking like it's on the right way.
My vision, let's say, if we can get our technology right, I think we'll be looking in the longer term or mid to longer term. We would be looking at personalized collections. That's my vision. So it's strategy on the level of a single debtor.
Sorry, it's personalized collections in terms of collection rate, I suppose, getting repaid, but it's also personalized collections in terms of customer treatment as well, probably.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And making sure that along the way you maximize your collection amount, and at the same time you do deliver a customer experience that is actually good for your debtor, and it helps you build the relationship that, past the more traumatic experience of debt collection, will then hopefully go back into a very good collaboration with your customer going forward. So yeah, that's the vision.
And I suppose with lots of data comes the storage of that data, and I suppose one of the enablers I think is probably that happened has been sort of like, I suppose, network technology, the cloud it used to be called, I suppose those kind of things. I mean, how much do you think that's sort of driving the industry in terms of, I suppose, the barrier to creating new services, storing data, those kind of things, and sort of driving, it's almost like the dynamism in the market. I mean, how much of a game change do you think that's been, and have we seen it fully finished?
I think cloud, as we call it, is here to stay. I see, again, Europe seems to be the front runner in this, but the other territories are moving fast. They're following suit, but they're not lagging behind. Definitely not. But in any case, I think there is a clear shift from on-premise installations, with whatever that entails, like increased IT people at the institution side looking after the systems and so on, to cloud, and not just cloud, but software as a service, which also has impact on the economic side and the budget side of this, where we seem now to be past the days of the perpetual software licensing scheme and more into leasing of the software. Now, with that, and when you go into cloud native technologies, like we've done, for example, with our collection self-service product, I think the financials work nicely, so that you seem to have the best of both worlds. So you have the flexibility and scalability to grow without any concern, and at the same time, the cost model is such that you can do so without having to really think about very hard what you want to do. So it is a pay as you grow, but it's not extortionate, it's not huge, and coupled with the leasing part of the software as opposed to a perpetual license, it helps organization. I have seen that it definitely helps our customers to actually be able to get new features. Obviously, the technology even facilitates that, because you can roll out features to everyone a lot faster, and you don't need to go on premise and do delivery projects again and again. So I think cloud is here to stay. I think it's facilitating a lot the technology. I don't think that everybody is just ready yet, but everybody's looking that direction. Absolutely. And as far as we are concerned, in Exus, that is our strategy.
Yeah, I just wonder if, particularly in markets maybe who haven't had the investment historically, if it actually presents this opportunity to leapfrog technology. So I'm sitting in a market that doesn't necessarily have it. If I have fast internet, I can access these services now, subject to foreign exchange rates, but I can access the services now and get access to some of the latest thinking and have it in quickly, right? So does it almost like, is it? I mean, everyone's getting supercharged, not just those in the large markets. Everyone can get superchargers in terms of like process development. I mean, does that open a new opportunity?
Looking at the markets we are active in, I think this is the case. Okay, obviously there are some territories which are more advanced. There are some countries with, I see different speeds within Southeast Asia. I don't see different speeds within Europe. But the invariant is, whereas like 5 years ago, they would not consider at all anything that has to do with cloud and all the associated issues with data residency and location of where your data is stored and so on and so forth. Now I see a specific shift, and I think I don't see any customers that outright rule that out. Let's put it like that. Whereas for other customers, and a lot of them, that's the only way. Yeah, guys, come on. Yeah, you can't. What's your cloud offering? It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's been an interesting journey. Thanks very much for the insights and the explanations around certainly what you see across your clients and what you're hearing. I think it's fascinating. I say it's been a fascinating sort of couple of years, and although it's been tough on most of us, but it does feel like things are changing a little bit, and it's definitely it's going to be interesting going forward, no matter what happens. I mean, that's for sure. So
yes. I think we're going to say new normal.
Yeah.
That's I don't think we're going back.
Yeah.
To life as we knew it pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And that's going to be reflected also in the collections business. But I think now that maybe the worst is over, and we have a new normality come about, where we're learning to cope, it's going to be more exciting than frightening going forward.
Yeah. Well, it's something we all look forward to with anticipation. So Michael, thank you very much. I really appreciate the time today.
Thank you very much as well, Chris. Very nice talking to you.